Old Jacob in his twilight years, has not only a lot of things that are bothering him spiritually, but he also gets what a lot of people when they get older get. They get negative. They get cynical. My grandma used to say, "That's the way we've always done it." I thought, well, that's a great argument. Or she'd say this, "If it's good enough for me, it's got to be good enough for the whole world, I guess, So you eat peanut butter out of the jar. Well, that's Jacob. He had settled in. He had been broken. He had lost his boy. God hadn't come through. He struggled. He knew, God had called him. He knew that he knew the Lord. Sometimes he was called, governed by God, and sometimes he was. And other times he certainly was not. But here in chapter 42, verse 29, the boys have come back from Egypt with food and also money back in their pockets, which they had paid, but it had been slipped by Joseph back in. They had met with Joseph, and they didn't recognize him. Joseph had kept Simeon, one of their brothers, as a hostage because Joseph demanded that they bring Benjamin, the youngest, back next time so that he knew that they weren't spies, but they were just honest folks who wanted food. And Joseph had worked this whole thing, on behalf of himself to see where their hearts were and seek to hopefully bring the whole family back. He was in power. They didn't know it. When they were on their way back, in fact, verse 28 it says that the boys found money and they said, "What is God doing?" They were so guilty of what they had done, and they're always looking for punishment, if you will. Well, they get back in verse 29 to Jacob, their father, back in Canaan, and they tell them everything that's happened, including, you don't come back unless you come back with Benjamin, and we're going to keep Simeon to make sure you guys aren't a bunch of liars. And so, verse 30, the man who was Lord of the land spoke roughly to us, took us for spies of the country. We said to him, "We're honest men, we're not spies. We're 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no more. The youngest is with our father this day in the land of Canaan." And the man, the Lord of the country, said, "By this I'll know if you're honest men. Leave one of your brothers here with me. Take the food for the famine of your households and be gone. Bring your youngest brother to me, and I'll know you're not spies, but you're honest men. Then I'll grant your brother to you, and you may trade in the land." So that was pretty much the report, that they brought back to Jacob, and the news couldn't have been worse. He lost his favorite son. He had now had a ruler in Egypt, powerful man who had food, and now he had another one of his sons, and he was requesting his other favorite son, the one that Rachel, his lovely wife, had died in giving birth to. And so as they opened their, verse 35, sacks, they surprisingly, each one found a bundle of money. And when their father saw the bundle of money, Jacob, they were all afraid. And Jacob, their father, said to them, "You have bereaved me. Joseph is no more. Simeon, no more. And you want to take Benjamin? All things are against me." Fear, cynicism, woe is me, no talk of God, how, what do you want? Lord, what will you do? Lost one son, lost another in prison. Third one is now in grave danger. And Jacob just says, "This is it. I am done. This is not going to happen." Reuben tries to promise that you could kill his sons if he doesn't bring them back. Really ridiculous offer. Take a few grandkids. And then he says in verse 38, Jacob does, "My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead. He is left alone. If any calamity should befall him in the way that you go, you would bring me to the grave with sorrow in my gray hair." I can't handle it. And so Jacob begins a series of steps here in what short portions we have, a bunch of decisions that you really could call steps to submitting to God the long way around. He's going to have to give in, but he's first got to run out of Jacob ideas, He's got to run out of heel-catching ideas. He begins by delay. So he just says, let's just eat, forget about Simeon, we'll take it on the chin with Joseph, and we're going to cut our losses. Let's just leave it at that. That meant that Simeon had an extended stay in an Egyptian jail because Dad was terrified, not at peace, not trusting the Lord. He was going to count his losses. You don't read him praying. You don't read him seeking God. He is determined to ignore the inevitability for as long as possible. That's not growing up in faith. That's struggling in faith. You know, if we delay seeking and obeying God when we determine nothing needs to be done right now, that's foolish.